Have you ever imagined how life could have been if all of us had an ability to remember everything that we have seen, things that we've heard, places that we've gone to, and of course things that we've studied? But unfortunately, that is not the reality. In as much as somebody begins to get older, memory problems begin to set in, people begin to be more forgetful. It is even an issue of concern, especially if the forgetfulness begins to manifest itself in a youth or somebody who is not older. It can cause a lot of problems on the part of the sufferer, especially when it concerns the quality of life and how far someone progresses in their life. So join me on the other side even as we discuss the top 5 causes of forgetfulness or memory loss. I welcome you back to our today's discussion, and we'll be basically, as I mentioned, look at 5 causes of forgetfulness. So without wasting much of our time, shall we get started? Okay, so I would like to get your feedback after this video. Please feel free to contact me on my cell phone and also my email address there. Let's get interactive. Okay, so before we get into defining or finding out what the 5 common causes of forgetfulness are, we need to understand what memory is. So Rod and Haig defines memory as an ability to retain information over time through 3 processes, namely encoding, storing, and retrieving. These stages are very important in memory and also remembering, because if encoding is not done properly, it affects the storing, okay, and basically also affects the retrieving. So all these processes must work in harmony together for information to be properly retrieved when it is needed the most. So if mental representations are not formed properly when the information is being given out, somebody will have a challenge with the storage. And if they are not stored properly, it means even retrieving would be a challenge. So think of it as a shop where you put things, or in your house where you keep your things. So if you don't know where to put each of the things, you just put them haphazardly, it means that it will be difficult to find out that particular thing when you're looking for it. So that is why whenever you are putting up things, they must be stored correctly in labeled structure so that you know where to find a particular object at a particular time. What is forgetfulness? Tendency, which means it repeatedly happens. Tendency to forget facts or events over time. More like a habit. It becomes a habit of forgetting facts or events that have happened. It could be probably a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, or a year ago. And especially for students, this can be catastrophic if we begin to forget things, the things that we are taught in class. So therefore, we need to learn. Let's get into the 5 factors that are supposed to be talked about. The first factor is unused memories. So there's a principle that is called use it or lose it. What this simply means is that if you are not utilizing information that you have stored in your brain or in your short-term memory, that information is likely to be lost. Okay, so the more it explains habit. The more you begin to do something, the more you begin to learn of it, and the more it becomes even difficult to forget. So we have Edgar Bell's kind of experience, which says that we are able to retain 10% of what we read. We are able to get 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we say and write, and then 90% of what we do. So it's very simple. When you do it, it means you will be able to retain 90% of the whole thing. That means that we need to be people that are doing and not much of reading. Or in summary, this means that you'll be able to remember 90% of things that you're able to demonstrate and do. So if you learn something, you read about something, try to find a way in which you can demonstrate it, because as you do it, it means it sticks and you'll be able to retain 90% of that information. And the second thing that causes forgetfulness, especially in people, is stress. I will not talk about the general population, but I will narrow it down to students or student life. Let me just say college life. When somebody enters college, it's a stage in life of greater transformation. So there's a lot of things that happen. Here is a person who has left their family, their home, to a totally new environment, different people, meeting new people, making new friends. And so there's a lot of things that come in, and the person has to quickly adapt. And failure to adapt, it can be catastrophic. It can lead to serious repercussions and mental health issues. So for someone in college, you have things like difficulties, maybe financial issues, it could be peer pressure, it could be relationships, someone trying to adapt. Okay, all these exams, all these can lead up to a lot of pressure and also expose them to a lot of anxiety and stress, which can really cause a lot of damage to cognitive function and an ability to study properly, retain information, and also to be able to lead a normal life. So when somebody is stressed, it means that stress hormones are released. The stress hormones are basically cortisol and adrenaline. So what cortisol and adrenaline does is that it makes you consume your energy in the body. It increases energy usage or sugar usage, carbohydrate, glucose usage. And what that does is that it increases the chemical activity of your brain. And because of increasing the chemical activity of the brain, it causes disruption in how your memory and your cognitive function works. So all these things, anxiety, depression, stress, they lead to actually poor memory and forgetfulness, which can affect, in the long run, can affect your academic performance.
So the common stressors that we are going to discuss here basically are more on student-centered. And number one, of course, stressor in college, we know exams, assignments, deadlines. All of us at one point or another that have been in college have faced exam anxiety, exam fear, and all those can increase the levels of stress, lack of sleep, because you're trying to catch up on the studies. So you find that you don't spend enough time sleeping, you want to catch up. Financial challenges, a common thing which affects every student in school. You don't know if you're going to be allowed to write exams, you don't know if your sponsors are going to finish paying on time, and that puts a dent. You can't concentrate in class, you can't study very well, and it increases just the amount of stress. Peer pressure, something that is very common. Drugs, as I mentioned, there's a new environment, you're trying to fit in, and people that usually don't fit in, they find themselves to be lonely, and they begin to question themselves, and that equally increases the levels of stress. Something that should be worthy mentioning, I think, among college students is excessive smartphone usage. And I want to specifically mention games, online games, and also social media. It happens that the more time you spend on social media, the less time you have for books and for normal social interaction, which can help to relieve yourself of stress. So there are many studies that have been done on just how excessive smartphone usage, especially being on social media, can do to your mental health. It equally causes you more stress and anxiety. This was a study that was done on how sleep affects academic performance. And people that slept about on average 7 hours, they said that the academic performance was not affected by their sleep pattern. So it's very important, and I want to mention that it's not the amount of sleep, but it is the quality of sleep. The best times that a person can usually sleep is from 21 hours to 05. That's about 6 to 7 hours of sleeping, which is very enough for a student. You are going to wake up fresh and be able to perform all the duties of the day in time. The number 3 point is poor note taking. Now, many people now, they would rather not attend class or just read the notes or the slides. It doesn't help you at all. So being there in class, being there to take notes, it's very important. One writer said, reading without taking notes or highlighting your book will allow you to forget too soon, which means that when you're taking notes, you only write that which you understand, so it improves your comprehension skills, understanding of the material, and also how you are able to retain the information. Okay, now the 4th cause of forgetfulness, ladies and gentlemen, is inflammation. Now, inflammation in simpler terms is basically how your body responds to injury. Now, there are many things that can injure the body. It could be drugs, it could be food, it could be infections. So when you worry yourself, the body goes into inflammation to counteract that injury. And some of the common causes of inflammation for the body, it could be occupational drugs. Maybe you take alcohol, it could be tobacco, it could be also therapy, you're on treatment. Studies have shown that drugs that are used to treat depression, drugs that are used to treat epilepsy, seizures, anxiety, all these drugs cause memory loss or forgetfulness in people. And of course, one of the other factors that is a culprit or causes inflammation is the wrong diet. So if you're eating the wrong things, or too much or too little, your body will equally respond. And in an effort to counteract, remember that the body and the brain must work in harmony. So if the body is not in harmony or is not well, there is defect in the body system, it equally means that even your brain will not function the way it is supposed to function. So the last and I think the most important part of this discussion is on that added sugar. Now, I want to be clear here that I don't want to be misquoted. The brain is one of the organs that only relies on glucose as a fuel. Now, I'm using the word added sugar. This simply means the sugar that we add into the food. The food that we normally eat, like fruit, any other food, they have already inbuilt carbohydrates, sugars in there. But we also add sugar. Now, how much added sugar is too much sugar? The World Health Organization recently made a study and concluded that on average per day, women should only take 6 teaspoons of sugar, which is equivalent to 24 grams. So that means 1 teaspoon is 4 grams. And also, because we normally use those big spoons, 3 teaspoons are equivalent to 1 spoon. So for a woman, it means that they only take 2 full spoons of sugar for the whole day. For men, that means 9 teaspoons, 36 grams, and 9 teaspoons are equivalent also to 3 spoons. And then for children, 3 teaspoons are required, which means that's about 1 spoon. They have also said no sugar for kids below the age of 2. It's not just brain functioning and cognitive functioning, but also there are other risks associated with too much intake of added sugar. Remember that the body, when it does not need the extra sugar, it converts that sugar into fat. In the long run, may actually go beyond the normal required levels, which may put you at risk of heart diseases, being obese, and all those things that come in. So it is very important that you take care, you check how much added sugar you are putting into your body. Now, it should be interesting to note that sugar is just as addictive as cocaine. Scans that were taken for people that were cocaine users and also those that were obese, they were almost similar. This means that the red dots that you're able to see, that is dopamine. So these are dopamine receptors that can be excited in a normal person. So only require the normal amount of excitation, but in a person that is obese, it means that they will require more to get that satisfaction. They will require more food, they will require more sugar. That is the meaning here. These things that we talk about, they are not just mere say or because we heard someone talk about sugar and we equally make a video to talk about it. These are things that have been proved over years and years of research and study. And one of that study is a small and colleague study that was done in 2008. They actually discovered that the hippocampus and a specific part of the brain called the dentate gyrus begins to shrink as somebody begins to be more exposed to added sugar. Now, this dentate gyrus or the hippocampus, this is where a person begins to form mental representation of information as it comes. Remember, I mentioned in the preamble that memory has three processes. So there is the encoding part where a person begins to make mental representation of information so that it can be stored. So this part of the brain that does that is the dentate gyrus. So if it begins to shrink as a result of chronic exposure to added sugar, this simply means that a person's cognitive functioning and learning begins to be impaired slowly as they begin to age. Another study was done by the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health in 2014. They found out that the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, this chemical in the brain which helps to form sensory neurons and also for learning, the production begins to be impaired for people that are more exposed to chronic sugar intake, and these are commonly diabetics. In conclusion, the other studies actually have said excessive sugar intake, especially free sugar, is not only attributed to global cognitive functions but also specifically affects verbal and visual memory. So these are things that will predispose someone to having those diseases like dementia and Alzheimer as they get to old age. And so in conclusion, I would like to just encourage someone out there that if you are having or facing these challenges, it is not too late to make changes, especially to your lifestyle. It begins first by self-reflection and also the desire to change and do better for yourself, contribute positively to society. Looking at your diet, take a lot of antioxidants, foods such as carrots, green leafy vegetables, pumpkins. These have a lot of antioxidants which can help to reduce the levels of stress and inflammation in the body, making you more healthier and creating that mind-body connection, which is very important. Another important factor is one must learn to do things. Remember the Edgar chart, which helps or which shows just how much we are able to retain information. 90% of information is able to be retained if we begin to practice, if we begin to demonstrate our knowledge to others. Seek counseling. It is not being weak when you identify that you need help. So when you need help, seek help, and it shall be given unto you. There are counselors that are there, there are elders, There are people that are always there to listen to you, people that you can trust, and they are always ready to help, especially in college. It is a time of great mental distress, and when you need help, speak to someone, speak to people that can come on board. Exercise, always very important. Golden, at least in a day you can spend 30 minutes of your time to exercise. It frees your body, it improves circulation, and basically your mental confidence and your mental capacities is increased. Stay away from alcohol, drugs, and other things that can put you at risk of mental problems. And of course, most importantly, know your purpose. There are some times when you can be doing something that is not your purpose, and it will create more stress for you. This video may not even be of help to you because you are constantly in the wrong place. So find your place in this world, find what your purpose is, why you are here. It's not just living life every day goes by. No, you have to find out what your purpose is, why you are here. The world needs your contribution, and you need to know what you are here for, how you can contribute to society, and that is why we are all here, to add value to humanity. So if you're in the wrong place, you're always going to feel out of place. So I want to encourage you that find time to seek out what your purpose is and begin to work on yourself and be able to contribute positively to society. So from me, I want to end by saying let's take care of ourselves. Let's always ensure that we eat the right food, the right diet. So from me and do my assignment Zambia, I say thank you so much, and see you on the next one.